US and international supporters, members of all the democratic resistance groups that are newly aligned with the AUF. And in particular, I do want to recognize Rahila Dostum, member of the Mishrana Jirga, one of the leading women who's publicly opposed the Taliban since the very beginning. Welcome and thank you for your message just now. Friends, we are gathering today on the 5th anniversary of the fall of Kabul. For Afghans, it was a defeat and a tragedy. Governments and international organizations who claimed for 20 years that we would stand with the people of Afghanistan as long as it takes, is a betrayal and a disgrace. Betrayal not only of the Afghan people, but of the veterans, hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians from more than 50 nations who served in Afghanistan in the sincere belief that they were doing their country's bidding, serving a greater good, and ultimately helping the Afghan people. That disgrace was mitigated only partly by the heroism of those soldiers who returned to Kabul 5 years ago to in the 2021 Kabul airlift at the cost of 13 Americans, 3 British, and 159 Afghans murdered by a suicide bomber at the Abbey Gate, along with 10 Afghan civilians, including 7 children, killed by a mistaken US drone strike trying to target those who did the bombing. There were dozens of others killed, as we all know, some by falling from American aircraft as they tried to escape. Hundreds of others whose names we will never know died in the evacuation. Thousands were injured. Hundreds of thousands were separated from their families. Millions were displaced. And ultimately, a nation of 42 million people was abandoned by its friends and left to suffer under the darkness of Taliban oppression and terrorism. I don't need to tell our group any more about that. We lived through it, and none of us will ever be the same again. But I do want to talk briefly about 2 other things. Firstly, and this is hard, the Taliban victory in 2021 did not come from nowhere. It didn't fall from a clear blue sky with no warning. It came about for real reasons that need to be in our minds today as we think about the future. Some of those reasons were the fault of foreigners, but some also were the fault of Afghans. Let me start with Afghans. Corruption, patronage over patriotism, personal gain over public service, putting family ahead of community, abuse of the people, what the Taliban used to call country sellers, district officials who didn't live in their own districts, ghost soldiers, dependence on foreigners to do the hard work, failure to pursue justice for people who were treated unjustly, lack of true connection between the elites and the rest of society, willful self-deception, mimicking foreigners rather than being authentically Afghan, performing capability instead of living it, faking compliance, stealing from the people. I could go on at length, and we all know these things. Foreigners too, the huge gap between public support by foreigners and private exhaustion with the continuation of the war. The gap between overcommitment by Western leaders and under-delivery or delivery of things that were not the priority of the Afghan people. Many were too willing to believe lies from the Taliban when they began to claim that they'd changed, they had reformed, and they would be different. Many foreigners tried to control or to corral Afghans, encouraging them to be dependent to make them easier to control. Many of us believed our own propaganda, didn't listen to the people on the ground who were trying to tell us repeatedly that things were not going well, people losing faith and patience in the effort. And I think perhaps most strongly, international community's hubris in not only how we went into Afghanistan, but in how we left it. All those lessons and the reasons why things happened in 2021 matter more today than ever before. The Taliban have proven, as many of us said at the same time, to be incapable of governing. Their control is real and it's brutal, but it's also fragile and brittle. They don't have enough real popular support to govern without oppression and coercion. They don't have enough capable administrators to run the country. The economy is in a shambles. They don't have enough troops or police to secure the cities and the countryside at the same time. That's why they're so brutal. They lack knowledge and they refuse to learn. Their leaders are divided and suspicious of each other. They have become the very thing that they criticized for all those years. As we've heard from Rahila, they're oppressing women, they're oppressing ethnic and regional minorities, they're disempowering business owners, they're persecuting religious groups, they are oppressing and sidelining their own Taliban members who brought them the victory in 2021, northern regional leaders in particular, but also everybody outside a very narrow circle around Habatullah and his cronies. They're attacking Pakistan. They attacked Iran last year. They're supporting the Baluch Liberation Army. They're partnering with Al Qaeda and the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan. They're making economic and political deals with China and Russia to the detriment of their own people and their neighbors. But the second thing I want to talk about is maybe more hopeful for us. The Taliban now have a real challenge coming. Their brittleness and their brutality is about to meet a resilient, robust resistance. And that resistance is led by the AUF. After 5 years of political organizing, building coalitions and alliances, bringing together different groups who oppose the Taliban's oppression, creating underground networks and auxiliary structures, building cells of pro-democracy activists and those that are willing to act as freedom fighters across the country. The AUF and its allies are now ready to resist by every means necessary to challenge the Taliban everywhere by demonstrating their ability to attack anywhere and to survive and fight another day. The AUF has no outside support from any former ISAF country. It has no money from international organizations. It has no external military advisors or technology transfers. But what the AUF has is priceless. It has authenticity, belief in itself, self-reliance, support from the people, support from dozens of religious leaders who recognize that the Taliban are illegitimate in Islam. Not all the people support the AUF, or not yet. Many still actively support the Taliban, maybe 10% of Afghan people. Many passively accept the Taliban because they see no alternative. Some try to be neutral and to avoid the whole issue. Some support horrendous jihadist groups like ISPK, AQIS, and others. Some are just seeking personal gain from the Taliban regime. Those are the new country sellers. You know I'm your friend, and I've been your friend since the war began. That friendship is real, and a real friendship can't be ended by a little thing like the total collapse of the republic or the complete abandonment of the Afghan people by the international community. Those, and there were many of them, who told you that they were your friends, but who then shrugged off the fall of Kabul in 2021 and went on with their lives as if nothing had happened, they're not your true friends. Friends can be honest with each other, so let me end by being honest with you. You must be virtuous. You must attain and maintain that qalbun salim. You have to avoid corruption, respond to the will of the people, be inclusive, listen to the quiet and downtrodden, not just to the loudest voices. Be just, be fair. Don't give in to hate and to your legitimate desire for revenge. Recognize that in any war, atrocities and mistakes are going to happen, but they have to be investigated and punished, and restitution has to be given. Act only under the international authority that is yours by right of the 2004 Afghan Constitution. Stay connected to the people. Listen to them, even when, maybe especially when, they criticize or complain. You need to hold yourselves to the highest standards. Never sink to the level of the Taliban. Remember that in a resistance movement, you have to discredit the enemy before you attack them. Otherwise, attacking them just makes them stronger. Lucky for the AUF, the Taliban are discrediting themselves every day. Be ready to work with anyone who wants to work with you as long as they're honest and can commit to the same international, legal, and ethical standards that you follow. Welcome groups of goodwill who are willing to fight the Taliban. Most importantly, welcome and forgive misguided brothers who have supported the Taliban when they prove truly willing to set aside their arrogance, their takabbur, and to restore unity within the Afghan nation. Finally, and I apologize for offering you advice, but don't depend on any outsider. Don't rely on foreigners, not even friends like me. Don't accept help that comes with strings attached. Don't tie yourselves to anyone else's agenda. You've gotten this far without any of that. I strongly believe that you will restore justice, unity, and peace in Afghanistan, and you will rejoin the community of the world on your own terms, not as a charity case, but as a people standing independently on your own feet, partnering and at peace with neighboring nations, bringing peace and prosperity to all Afghans, even those who today misguidedly support the Taliban. None of that will happen overnight. After all, it took the Taliban 20 years to overthrow the Republic. In only 5 years, you're well on track to resisting the Taliban oppression. So even though it won't happen overnight, I firmly believe that it will happen. And when it does, your friends, including me, will be here to cheer for you. Thank you.